My name is Rachel, and I grew up in a middle-class American family. I had 2 brothers, and we lived with our loving parents. Not long after I finished school, a great marriage proposal came my way. My parents were thrilled and quickly agreed to it. And just like that, I got married. The man I married, Ryan, was wealthy, kind, and incredibly handsome. He lived alone, no parents, no siblings. He had a beautiful, spacious house and a well-running business. My father felt confident that I'd be secure with him, so he gave his blessing. Ryan loved me deeply, and I loved him just the same. But 5 months into our marriage, Ryan suddenly had a heart attack and died. I was completely broken. Never in my life did I imagine something like this could happen to me. I had been so genuinely happy with Ryan. We didn't even have children yet, and just like that, he was gone. After the funeral, my parents wanted me to come live with them again. But back home, I also had 2 sisters-in-law. And I knew too well how people often judge widows. There's always a whisper, a stare, or some kind of pity or blame. I didn't want to deal with all that. I didn't want to go back as someone who'd lost everything. So there I was, a widow in my 20s. People kept telling me I should remarry, move on. But I didn't want that either. Ryan's house, though now painfully empty, still gave me a sense of dignity, of presence. I had earned respect there. And honestly, I was scared. What if I remarried and things only got worse? What if I lost even more? The house was huge, and being in it alone terrified me. At night, when I heard dogs barking outside, my heart would race so fast I thought it might stop. I'd never been that kind of person before, nervous, jumpy, but after Ryan's death, I became someone I didn't recognize. Even the tiniest noise made me panic. Every night felt like a battle with fear. Every day felt just as hollow. Thankfully, Ryan had built a strong business, and I never had to worry about money. There was more than enough to live comfortably. I was well educated, practical. I even thought about starting tutoring, maybe teaching local kids. But then another idea struck me. What if I rented out the downstairs space? That way, I wouldn't feel so alone. Maybe having someone nearby would help with the fear, and it'd also bring in a little income. But I was careful. I only wanted to rent to a decent, responsible family. I didn't want to take the risk of renting to a single guy, not when I was young and living by myself. I wasn't exactly social with the neighbors, but I needed help finding tenants. So I started going around, letting people know I was looking to rent the downstairs, but only to a respectful family. I made it clear that I wouldn't consider single men. 2 days later, there was a knock on the door. It was early morning. The doorbell rang, and when I opened it, I was surprised to see an elderly woman standing there with a young man. I invited them in, offered them a seat in the living room, and asked gently, "I don't think we've met before. Who are you, and where are you from?" The young man spoke first. "You're looking to rent your house, right? That's why we're here. We heard you're searching for a family, and both of us would like to live here. It'll be just the 2 of us. No one else." I nodded. "Yes, that's correct. I'm looking for respectful tenants. I want to rent out the lower portion of my home." Then I asked, "Are you 2 mother and son?" That's when the older woman looked at me and gently corrected, "Oh no, I'm not his mother, I'm his wife." I was stunned, completely speechless. Jason, the young man, was incredibly good-looking, maybe in his late 20s or early 30s. The woman, whose name was Margaret, looked at least 50. It just caught me off guard. I had no idea what made someone like him fall for someone like her. "I'm really sorry," I said quickly. "Please don't take offense. I didn't realize you were married." They both smiled, and Margaret said, "It's okay. Most people react the same way." Then Jason looked at me and asked, "Ma'am, would you consider renting the space to us? We really need a place to stay, and you need tenants." "Of course," I said. "You can stay. Here's the key. Bring your things whenever you're ready." Jason turned to Margaret and smiled, then looked back at me and said, "We'll pay whatever rent you ask." That made me feel even better. They seemed polite, respectful, exactly the kind of tenants I had hoped for. I handed them the keys and told them they could start moving in. Within no time, they were back with their belongings and settling in. They organized their things quietly, without disturbing anyone. The day passed by quickly, and by evening, I found myself thinking a lot about them. What did Jason see in Margaret that made him marry her? Was it love? Was it arranged? Maybe his family had forced him into it. Or maybe he had willingly chosen her. Whatever it was, their story felt unusual. Still, I let those thoughts go and headed to the kitchen to make dinner. While cooking, I remembered something my mom always used to say: if someone new moves in next door, always offer them a meal. You never know what they're going through or whether they've got food or not. A warm meal can mean a lot. Thinking of that, I decided to cook dinner for Jason and Margaret. Normally, I only cooked for myself. But today, making enough for 3 actually made me feel good. I packed up the food and headed downstairs to take it to them. It was already dark outside. I knocked on their door. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. I figured maybe they were just really tired and had gone to sleep early. So I turned around to head back upstairs. But just then, the door creaked open and Jason was standing there. "Oh, Rachel, what are you doing here?" he asked, surprised. He looked down and noticed the food in my hands. "You didn't have to bring us dinner. Margaret's already cooking." I smiled and replied, "It's okay. It's just something I wanted to do. You're our guests tonight. Starting tomorrow, we'll be living like one big family under the same roof." I asked Jason, "Where's Margaret?" and began walking toward the kitchen. But he quickly stepped in front of me and said, "Oh, Margaret, she's not feeling well. She's got a terrible headache and had to lie down in the room." I blinked. "Wait, didn't you just say she was cooking dinner?" He hesitated just a second, then replied, No, she was cooking, but then her head suddenly started hurting really bad. So she went to lie down. She might be asleep by now. If I wake her while she's only half asleep, it'll just make it worse. You know how it is, she's older, and her health is a little fragile. Waking her now would only make things harder for her." I didn't say a word. I just nodded slightly and went back upstairs to my place. I had my dinner in silence and got into bed, but I couldn't stop thinking about how smoothly Jason had flipped the story. First, she was in the kitchen. Then suddenly, she had a headache and was asleep? What was he really trying to hide? I didn't know. And honestly, I didn't want to overthink it. I told myself, let it go, Rachel. Why get involved? Still, something about it didn't sit right. I had hoped I could grow close to Margaret. She was older than me, and I imagined we'd become like sisters, maybe even close friends. We were both alone, after all. I thought we could sit and chat, keep each other company during the day, and maybe over time, I'd learn more about her life. Like what led her to marry someone as young as Jason. That night, I thought for sure she'd come upstairs just to say thank you for the dinner I brought. I wasn't expecting much, just a kind word. Some people, like me, feel incomplete unless we thank someone for even a small kindness. But Margaret never came. I told myself, it's okay, maybe she'll say something in the morning. The truth is, I didn't really need a thank you. I just wanted to talk to her. I wanted to connect. Still, that night felt different. For the first time in a while, I wasn't scared. With someone else living in the house, I felt safe. I wasn't frightened by the silence, or even the dogs barking outside. When Ryan was alive, I never even noticed those things. Maybe it was because his presence made me feel protected. Ryan had loved me so deeply. Every night since he passed, I cried remembering him. That night, wrapped in all those thoughts, I eventually fell asleep. But in the middle of the night, I suddenly woke up. My eyes just opened, without warning, without a reason. And instantly, I felt terrified. I could hear someone screaming. A woman. Her voice was filled with pain. She sounded like she was begging for help. It wasn't faint. It was loud and raw, so close, it sent chills through me. I froze in bed. My whole body shook. I covered both my ears with my hands, trying to block the sound, trying to convince myself it wasn't real. But it was. And it wouldn't stop. I didn't know what to do. My heart raced, and all I could feel was helplessness. The screaming continued, on and on. Only around 6 in the morning did it finally go quiet. That's when I could breathe again. That's when I felt the slightest bit of peace. I must have passed out from exhaustion shortly after, because the next thing I remember, I woke up and it was already 10 o'clock. I jumped out of bed, hurried to freshen up, and made myself a cup of tea. Then I stepped out onto the balcony with the cup in my hands, still shaken, still wondering what had happened last night. From the balcony, I saw Jason down in the alley, talking to someone on the phone. He looked like he was heading out. His outfit, the way he moved, it all said he was off to work. While talking, he looked up and saw me watching. He smiled, gave a slight nod, and walked away. I figured this was the perfect moment to finally talk to Margaret. Since the day she moved in, I hadn't gotten a real chance to sit down with her. I wanted to connect, maybe share some conversation, but it felt like she'd been avoiding me. Still, I wasn't giving up so easily. I quickly wrapped up my morning chores and went downstairs. Jason was gone, so the timing felt right. I knocked on their door. It was locked. I knocked again, but no one answered. I stood there, wondering why no one was opening up. After a while, I finally heard a soft voice from inside. "Rachel, is that you?" It was Margaret. "Yes, it's me," I said. "Can you open the door?" She opened it slowly. Her face looked pale, and there were tears in her eyes. That caught me off guard. I hadn't expected to see her crying. She stepped aside and invited me in. I sat down on the sofa, and she said quietly, "I never know if I should let someone in or not. That's why I take so long to open the door." I tried to comfort her. "Margaret, you're in a new place. I understand. But it's safe here. No one's going to show up out of nowhere." She took a deep breath and then said something that stayed with me. "You have no idea how my life has turned out." I looked at her closely. "You've been crying. Are you okay?" She nodded slowly, but her voice cracked. "I don't even know where to start. I'm just overwhelmed." "Talk to me," I said. "Whatever's on your mind, I'm here." And then she opened up. "My husband, he doesn't like me. He's so much younger than I am, and it's like he regrets everything. He wants someone his age, someone attractive. He doesn't even look at me like I'm his wife. He doesn't see me that way." I could see the pain in her eyes. She looked lost. "I think he's seeing someone else," she added. "He's always on his phone, whispering. And when I ask him who he's talking to, he lashes out at me. He says terrible things. Sometimes he even raises his hand." I froze. "Oh my God, Margaret, are you okay?" She gave a weak smile. "People look at me and think I have everything: money, clothes, a home. But I don't have the one thing I need most: someone who truly cares." Her words hit hard. I felt a deep ache in my chest. "Tell me," I said gently, "what can I do for you? Please let me help." She shook her head. "No one has helped me. Not even my own family. My husband threatens to leave me all the time. And I've got no one. No parents. No kids. No one. Tell me, where would I go now? Who would want a woman my age? I don't need anything, just pray for me, Rachel. That's all I ask." I reached out and held her hand. "I will. I promise. I'm like your little sister. You can share anything with me. And I'll always pray for you." As I got up to leave, she softly called after me. "Rachel, please don't tell anyone what I said. Especially not Jason. If he finds out, he'll hurt me. Please don't even let him know you came over, or that we talked." I nodded, my heart heavy. "I won't say a word. I promise." I said, "Yes, of course. Don't worry. I won't tell your husband anything. I promise." And with that, I quietly went back upstairs. But inside, I was furious at Jason. Why had he even married her? If he never loved her, if all he ever did was mistreat her, then what was the point? Why bring someone into your life just to make them miserable? She was older. At that stage in life, she didn't need restrictions, she needed peace. But instead of giving her care or kindness, Jason was probably out there having an affair while locking Margaret away like a prisoner. It made me angry. If he hadn't treated her like that, maybe Margaret and I could have become real friends. Maybe even sisters in some way. We both carried pain, we could have shared it with each other, helped each other heal. But I tried to push those thoughts aside and went back to my usual routine. That night, I went to bed like always. But just like the night before, I woke up in the middle of the night. And again, it was fear that jolted me awake. I heard it, the cries of a woman. Loud, aching screams. I sat up, listening carefully. The sound was close, very close. I stepped out of my room, heart pounding, and as I moved down the hallway, the cries became louder and clearer. And then it hit me, the sound was coming from the downstairs apartment. And the voice? It was Margaret. For a moment, I froze. My feet wouldn't move. But then something inside me snapped, and I raced down the stairs. I couldn't just stand by. I had to help her. I pounded on their door, calling her name. Again and again. But no one opened it. And her cries? They didn't stop. In fact, they got louder, sharper. She sounded like she was in agony. I kept knocking until my hand actually started to hurt. Still, no answer. Eventually, I gave up and stumbled back to my apartment, completely helpless. What could I even do at that hour? Everyone in the neighborhood was asleep. I couldn't sleep at all that night. I was too anxious, too worried about Margaret. So I sat in the balcony, watching the sky shift from night to dawn. When I looked at the clock, it was already 5 a.m. I made up my mind, when Jason stepped out for work, I was going to stop him. He couldn't keep pretending nothing was wrong. By 7 a.m., the milkman arrived, and right after that, I saw Jason leaving the house. The moment he saw me standing by the door, he froze. His expression changed instantly, like he'd been caught. "Jason," I called out. "Wait a minute." He stood still, completely silent. Then he looked at me and said quietly, "I know what you're going to ask." His voice was heavy, and so was his face. I could tell he hadn't slept either. "You're worried about Margaret," he said. "You're wondering why she screams at night. I worry about her too, Rachel. But I don't know what to do. If you know of a solution, please, tell me." I noticed tears running down his cheeks. He tried to wipe them away without letting me see, but I noticed. "Jason," I said gently, before I suggest anything, "I need to know the truth. What's really going on with Margaret?" He looked up at me, his eyes filled with something I couldn't quite place, shame, maybe, or exhaustion. Then he said, "The biggest issue is, she doesn't trust me. At all." I looked at him, stunned. That's not what I expected to hear. He gave a small, sad smile. "I married Margaret by choice. No one forced me. But look at me, and look at her. There's such a huge difference between us." "If I had wanted," Jason said, his voice steady but low, "I could have easily married a young, beautiful woman. But I didn't. I walked away from everything and chose Margaret. She had no one," he continued. "I wanted to be the person who stood by her. That's why I married her. But even after all that, she still doubts me. She thinks I have someone else. Even you mistook her for my mother when you first saw us. That's how people see us. But my only mistake was thinking she needed help and that I could be the one to give it." He paused and looked away for a moment. "She used to work at our house as a maid," he admitted. "Seeing her like that, with no support, no future, it started to bother me. That's when I decided, I'll marry her. I'll give her my name. But my family? They couldn't accept it. They threw me out. I left my own family behind, for her." Then he looked me in the eyes and said, "Now you tell me, Rachel. Was that wrong? Or was it the right thing to do? My parents disowned me. Cut me off from everything. I gave up a stable life, all for Margaret. I've gone through so much just to see her smile. But instead, she accuses me every single day of cheating on her. Just because I talk on the phone. She's convinced I'm sneaking around behind her back." Jason took a deep breath, clearly holding back tears. 2 years ago, he went on, my parents had arranged my marriage to this girl from a wealthy family. She was beautiful. Absolutely stunning. We even got engaged. She was the daughter of my dad's close friend. But I broke it off. I told them I couldn't go through with it. My parents lost it. They told me I was crazy. They said, "Can't you see she's old enough to be your mother? You're leaving your family, breaking your engagement, for a maid?" Then they said, if you marry her, you're out of our lives and out of our will. But I didn't care. I packed my things, left my home, and started a new life with Margaret. I've stayed loyal to her every single day. Even at this age, I've stood beside her when no one else would. Then his voice dropped lower. But now, I feel alone. More alone than I've ever felt. I gave up everything, my family, my identity, to be her support. And she doesn't even see it. Doesn't even try to. He looked down. From the very first night of our marriage, she's never trusted me. She keeps thinking I still talk to that other girl, like I'm still stuck on her beauty or something. She tells me I'll never really be hers. That I only married her out of pity. Every night it's the same thing. Accusations. Screaming. Crying. Because of her outbursts, landlords always assume I'm the one hurting her. They think I'm beating her. That's why she's screaming. So every few months, we get kicked out. And I have to start all over again. This house. He motioned slightly. It's our 5th. And when we moved in, I actually begged her. I folded my hands and said, please, let me live in peace. But even here, nothing's changed. Then, with a long pause, he added, there's something else I need to tell you. Margaret's not well. Mentally. With age, her mind has started slipping. I'm trying to get her treated. But sometimes, she becomes violent. That's why I don't let her go out. That's why I ask her not to let anyone in. I stood there, stunned. It felt like someone had pulled the ground out from under my feet. And yet, looking at him, I truly believed he was telling the truth. Jason, I said softly, I just want to ask you something. He looked up. Yes? Please. Go ahead. Don't keep Margaret locked inside like that, I said. Let me try to talk to her. Maybe she just needs someone to listen. Maybe it'll help. When I heard Jason's words, I could see the stress on his face. He said, you're saying this because you've never seen how she behaves when she's angry. When she loses her temper, she becomes impossible to handle. I'm at work all day. If something happens to you in my absence, who will be responsible? She could actually hurt you. I'm sorry, but I can't allow what you're asking. I took a deep breath and replied, if Margaret ever hurts me, I won't blame you. All I'm saying is, please don't keep her locked up like a prisoner. Jason looked at me for a few moments. Then, without a word, he slowly reached into his pocket and pulled out a key. He placed it in my hand and said, this is the key to her door. But please, be careful. If you sense that she's getting angry, leave immediately. Don't take any risks. I nodded. As Jason walked away, I stood there, unsure what to believe anymore. My mind was spinning. Both of them, Jason and Margaret, had told me completely different stories. Who was telling the truth? I went back to my room and tried to shake it off by focusing on my daily chores. But later, I couldn't hold myself back. I picked up the key and quietly walked down to Margaret's floor. When I unlocked the door and stepped in, I saw her sitting on the sofa, deep in thought, wiping away tears. I knocked softly, but she didn't even notice. I slowly walked closer and gently said her name. She flinched, like she had just come out of a nightmare, and quickly stood up. She looked shocked to see me. How did you get in here?" she asked. I smiled to calm her. I thought, since both of us are alone, maybe I could come sit with you for a while. The next moment, she burst into tears again and hugged me tightly. She clung to me like a child needing comfort. I needed someone, she said through sobs. Someone to talk to, someone to lean on. I held her close and said, "You don't have to cry anymore. Your little sister is here now. But today, I need to ask you something important. Tell me honestly, why do you scream at night?" I had heard Jason's side, but I wanted to hear the truth from her, directly. A part of me still wondered, was Jason lying? Had he fooled me? Margaret looked nervous. "No," she said quickly, "I don't scream. Why would I? I'm happy, very happy in my life. My husband takes great care of me." Her words shocked me. She had completely flipped her story. Just yesterday, she had cried about her pain, about how he mistreated her. And now, she was saying the exact opposite? I didn't know what to believe. Then she suddenly smiled and said, "I want to see your house." Show me how you've decorated it. I want to do the same, so that when my husband comes home, he feels happy and proud. Still confused, I said, Sure, come. I'll show you my home. I brought her upstairs with me, but my mind was full of questions. Why was she acting so differently now? When we entered my home, she gently reached her hand forward, and that's when I noticed something that made my heart stop. There were burn marks on her skin. Wait, what happened to you? I asked, shocked. Margaret looked around cautiously and then spoke in a whisper, Remember what I told you yesterday? Somehow, my husband found out. I think he's installed something in the room, maybe a recording device. He's always watching, always listening. Her voice shook as she continued, That's why I said I was happy earlier, because I'm scared. The truth is, I'm not okay. My young husband beats me. That's why I scream at night. My screams, they're not just outbursts. They're cries for help. She looked straight at me, eyes filled with pain. One day, if you see with your own eyes what I go through, you won't be able to sleep. It will haunt you. She paused and said something that I'll never forget. If you don't believe me, place a camera in my room. I can't do it myself. But if you can record what happens and show it to the police, maybe then he'll finally be punished. Maybe then, I'll be free. I softly told Margaret Ty, All right, I'll do something. But deep down, I felt completely torn, stuck between a husband and a wife. One was accusing the other, and honestly, both seemed believable. Whenever I spoke to Jason, I felt he was genuine. But whenever I sat beside Margaret Ty, listened to her cries, and saw her wounds, I believed her too. It was all so confusing. Their stories were completely different, but somehow, both seemed innocent in their own way. I couldn't tell who was lying, or if anyone was lying at all. That's when I decided the only way to uncover the truth was to install a hidden camera in their home. I had already spoken to someone to arrange it, and each night, the screams from the lower floor kept haunting me. They never stopped. In the mornings, Jason would tell me her health is getting worse. But at night, Margaret would whisper to me with trembling lips, the abuse is increasing. I didn't know whom to trust anymore. Still, I never let that confusion change how I treated them. I tried everything to make Margaret feel better, talked to her, made her smile, gave her tips about decorating her home, made her tea every evening, just like I'd do for my own elder sister. She couldn't clean the space in front of her house, so I quietly swept it myself. I wanted her to feel seen, supported. Maybe if she felt more loved, she would forget her pain. But truth be told, I also cared about Jason. I just wanted the truth to come out. If Jason was the guilty one, he deserved punishment. But if Margaret was mentally unwell, she deserved treatment and compassion. There was still some time left before the camera guy was supposed to come. That evening, after dinner, I thought, I'll take food down to Margaret like always. Even though I usually avoided going downstairs at night, that day I made an exception. But as I stepped down, I suddenly heard her voice through the half-closed door. She said, in a sharp whisper, Everything is ready tonight. Don't worry about her. She's weak, easy to control. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. That wasn't the same Margaret who cried in my arms. This voice, this tone, it was something else. Cold. Calculating. I stepped back quietly, heart pounding. My thoughts raced. Was she the one manipulating everything? Was she calling someone over at night, making plans, and then screaming just to blame Jason? Was she creating a lie so big that everyone would pity her while doing something entirely different behind closed doors? I couldn't take it anymore. There was still some time before the camera would be installed, but I needed help, real help. I called an old friend of mine, Megan. She's a lady constable. I told her everything, every single thing I'd seen and heard. Megan, I said, I need you to come over with your team. I don't know who's lying and who's innocent, but someone here is hiding a dark truth. She agreed. That night, after dinner, I sat there waiting. But I don't know what happened. I must have fallen asleep. The next thing I knew, I opened my eyes in a hospital bed. I was terrified. My head hurt. I looked around, completely confused. And then, I saw Megan standing there beside me, smiling. I asked her, Where am I? What happened? Why am I in a hospital? She held my hand gently and said, "Rachel, you've done something incredible." For a long time, we'd been chasing a gang, people who enter homes as tenants, gain trust, and then rob families before disappearing. And last night, thanks to you, we finally caught them red-handed. I looked at Megan, still confused and groggy, and asked, How did that happen? She sat beside me and gently explained, "Rachel, the woman who was staying at your house as a tenant, she was part of a gang. A real one. Their trick is to find kind-hearted, vulnerable women like you, move in as tenants, and then pull you into their drama. They create emotional chaos," she continued. "The husband blames the wife. The wife blames the husband. And you? You get caught in between. You forget to protect yourself because you're too busy trying to fix their problems. And that's exactly what happened to you, Rachel. You trusted them. You felt sorry for them. And slowly, without even realizing it, you showed them everything, your home, your jewelry, your valuables." I felt a sinking pit in my stomach. Megan continued, "Thank God you caught on. Last night, both of them had mixed sedatives into your dinner. That's why you fell asleep so deeply. They were planning to rob you while you were unconscious. They had it all planned out: TV, fridge, washing machine, jewelry, even your designer clothes. Everything was packed and ready to go. We got there just in time," she said. "We caught them red-handed. But when we reached your room, you were passed out cold. So we rushed you to the hospital." I was speechless. I had trusted them with all my heart. I believed both their stories, even cried for them, and they were just playing a game the whole time. I couldn't believe how low some people can go, putting on such emotional acts just to rob someone. And I was their perfect target. I let them in, I cared for them. I even defended them. But by God's grace, I was saved. That night changed everything for me. I'm honestly scared now, scared to trust again. Scared to ever keep tenants in my home. And so, once again, I found myself alone. But you know what? This time, I'm okay with that. Being alone is still better than being surrounded by bad people. In today's world, you really can't trust anyone easily. And maybe, just maybe, this solitude was meant for me. Maybe it's in my destiny. And oddly enough, I've found a strange kind of peace in it. Now, I spend my days teaching underprivileged children in my home. I don't charge them a single penny. They stay with me during the day and go back to their homes in the evening. And honestly, that time I spend with them, it fills my heart. Their laughter, their questions, their joy when they understand something, it gives me a purpose. A reason to wake up every morning. Dear friends, if this story touched your heart, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. Thank you so much for listening.